I lost sound. I'm sorry. I think you just did the introduction for me, but give me a second. I'm just gonna work on that.
Okay, now
Got
we're
it.
back.
There it is. Okay, it wasn't on my end.
Oh, goodness. Well, welcome, everyone, once again to Unleash Your Courage. This is your host, Angela Schroeder. Whether you're listening live on Short Step Radio, on Facebook, or by recording, kicking off the show. And anytime I do technical things and not my team, I manage to mess it up. So anyway, I did do your introduction. We're super excited to have our first guest of the new year, 2024. Trevor is back on the show. So welcome. I told Trevor I was beyond excited. He's like, am I the easy guest? I was like, yeah, easy and fun guest. Trevor and I have just a great banter back and forth of discussion. And I love having new guests on the show and hearing their story. But I was telling Trevor, I also love, as we go into this new year, revisiting some guests, maybe multiple times, of people, and Trevor's one of those, that is a friend that I think it's interesting. I think it is. We'll see if you do as guests. That I think it's interesting to have a seat in our conversations, that we dive deep into conversations anytime we talk. And so, why not have people listen as we dive into talking about some things as friends and fellow business owners?
I love it. Document it.
Let people watch the crazy conversations. And so Trevor actually picked the conversation of today. I'll let you we'll do a little introduction. If you didn't see Trevor on the last show, though, before we dive into the topic of today, Trevor, tell the audience about you and how awesome you are.
That won't take long. No, so I'm a small business nut job, just like the people listening to this episode. I own a clean image pressure washing. We do Christmas lights as well. We've added a few other ancillary services, but we're starting to track that kind of stuff this time of year. So that's kind of our planning phase, if you will. It's actually my favorite time of year because I can sit at the desk and do what I'm good at, which is the planning and the overseeing and the systemizing. So I like to complain about it because I put in long hours, but it's actually my favorite time of year. I also own a real estate company, Steel Realty. I have 3 amazing children and a beautiful wife named Ashby, and I live in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. And I am blessed to live in the United States of America. That's me.
That was a great introduction. And I met Trevor almost a year ago at, I guess we met in Vegas, but really got to know each other more at Sales Boost last year, and then got to go on a fun trip with you and your wife. And like I said, always interesting conversations. And I love the topic that you picked for today of really talking about what you are in right now. The season of your business that you are in. Trevor is good at this and likes it. So I'm excited because we should learn from him, because I don't as much love sitting in the seat and doing all this planning. But Trevor is one of those unique breeds that you're like a visionary entrepreneur, but you also must score incredibly high as an integrator.
It's not as high. It even shocked me a little bit. It's not as high as you would think. Honestly, good integrators have the patience to see it through. I start a project. If I don't complete it by the end of the day, I'm like, something's wrong. You're an idiot. Why can't you get this done? And it could be a huge financial, budgetary, forecasting nightmare. And I'm like, I should be able to do that in a day. So I'm really hard on myself when it comes to that. And for that reason alone, I'm definitely not an integrator. But
you're able to, and you need people to do those things. But I do admire in you this area of being able to, that you love, that you have passion around like creating the processes, and then going back and looking at and taking a look at things that need to shift. So let me talk a little bit about what season, especially, I think it's even more for seasonal businesses that do have a lull, that you can take time to do it. But what you're doing right now, really every business owner should be in the season as you kick off a new year.
Yeah. So I can say this. I've been in business a long time. I've failed so many times. It's I lost count. But what that does, that process, it teaches you to almost be fearful of making those same mistakes twice. So, I did my every year at the end of the year, I try to do my goal planning. I was showing you that sheet
Yeah.
earlier. And at the top it says focus, implement, and track. And the reason for that is I'm pretty good at the focus and the implementation part, but the tracking has always been something, and this is the integrator side. I could use Michael Gregory. Actually, I watched his videos as of late, and he's freaking genius. And
Yeah, he is.
I just wish I could get him for 5 minutes a week, and it would probably solve all my problems. But the tracking side, I'm spending a lot of my time right now implementing the tracking processes so I can follow up with my ridiculous vision, and I'm trying to make it simple enough so that my team can do it as well. Otherwise, you make the system and it's too complicated. Nobody follows it. And the visionary doesn't even follow to check in and make sure they're doing their job. Right. So it's like it's this catch 22, but we're being very diligent about making these systems simpler and easier to do, so that we can keep a track on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
I want to go back to all the different stuff you're looking at and, taking a look at that maybe as the lesson that I can write down of all the stuff that I should be looking at as well.
Uh-oh.
Like, definitely for all the service-based businesses out there. But we've probably had this discussion before. Do you have an integrator in your business? As the visionary, you're saying you need somebody, you're creating these systems and processes, but you don't have somebody holding
No.
you accountable for them.
The financial side, yes. I've hired Justin Boyd with Boyd Consulting. He's one of those guys that, graduated top of his class, total nerd, absolutely brilliant. And he's fantastic to work with. If you're looking for a CFO, he honestly fills that role for us. He does all our forecasting, our budgeting. He does it on a weekly basis, and then we have monthly calls to go over all the numbers. And so we just finished the year end. In that meeting, I think I heard JC talking about him not hitting the numbers that he set for himself. We did the same thing. We did not hit our numbers, and it was a very frustrating end of year call for me. But what that does is it focuses my attention where it needs to be. It steals my visionary mind and says, okay, all of this is a waste of time if you don't stop and get back to the fundamentals, right? So that's what I've been doing lately. Um, to answer your question, no, I really don't have an integrator in my business other than that. Administrations and operations wise, I'm desperate. So I think we talked about that before.
Yeah, I
Actually.
think we have. And I was like, have you made any changes in that department?
No.
It's one of the, I mean, I now have an incredible integrator. Michelle is in the Philippines, but and just somebody to do exactly that we discuss. We evaluate these year-end things, say the things that we're going to do differently, create new processes that we're going to track things. But then I don't even hold myself accountable to the systems, or where are the systems even at, because I've moved on to something else. And to have someone that really oversees all of that, really is accountable for me, one, the visionary that holds me accountable, um,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that I said was important, that we're all following the processes, we're all doing the things, and that none of those gaps get missed, because you take this
Right.
time to evaluate and to set things into place. But I have really, really found this year the best integrator relationship that is someone that, like I said, holds all those things to be true.
Yeah. So you mentioned like I guess prioritizing your systems or whatever it is you're going to attack, your tracking, right?
Mhm.
So for me, I had, I want everything tracked right now, but I don't have the integrator to do it. And it's like, so I have to create these processes. And I know I'm driving Justin Boyd insane with like, hey, what do you think about this spreadsheet? Let's try this. And he's like, dude, just follow the, and I'm like, stay in my lane, in other words. But so I've got all these ideas, and basically what I did the first week of January, the first week of 24, was just prioritize the things that are actually important. And so at the top of my sheet it says get back to the fundamentals, right? So in my instance, it's training, it's operational training.
Okay.
That's where the fundamentals are. So that's where I'm focusing right now. It's not where I want to focus, but it's where I need to be. And that's not always easy for a visionary to do that, to put their concepts and their ideas on to the side to focus on what needs to be done. So,
Yeah.
we're doing daily huddles every morning with my team. That's not something a DI on the disc assessment wants to do on a daily basis. But back to the fundamentals until I find an operations
Are
manager.
not really sexy to a visionary or DI.
Yeah, neither one of those wanna do that. They wanna sleep in. They wanna work at their own schedule and just expect everybody to do their job, but it just doesn't work that way. So I spent a lot of time just prioritizing and getting my mind right so that I can attack the things that matter instead of the things that only matter in my head. Trying to convince my staff that, you know, it's important to do daily job costing tracking. They're like, yeah, I don't care about that. So I have to simplify everything and just make it easier to do.
And so as you're going through, I mean, you determined it was back to the fundamentals, um, is what matters most. But as you go through at the beginning of the year and are making that evaluation of what matters the most, how did you prioritize those things? How did you figure out what was you're going to focus on and what matters the most?
Literally, like writing it down, right? So these like checklists of things I need to do, and then I'll prioritize it, put it in order, and limit it down to Howard Partridge was my business coach for the past year. Um, and he calls it your top 4 projects. So you narrow it down to your top 4 projects. And so number one on our project list right now is training. So I need to get back to the fundamentals. So every time we have a meeting, I'm going over something in my ridiculously large, operations manual with my staff. I'm saying, okay, we need to go over the procedures for a house wash, today. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to make sure everybody understands what that procedure looks like. Because in my eyes, the visionary I put it down on paper, go read it, figure it out. You should be able to handle it from here. That's just not how it really works, right? So back to the fundamentals, I'm going through it topic by topic with my staff, and it's going to take me months to get through this entire operations manual. But you realize that all this time put in this operations manual mean nothing if nobody's reading it, if nobody's if you're not implementing the training, so it's like, I mean, I sat down with my wife, who's an ID, 45 minutes ago. She's a high ID. So she's like, she just kind of goes with the flow and whatever feels right. She's the life of the party, that kind of personality type. And it serves her very well in most cases. But in our relationship, it doesn't, right? Because I need the systems followed. So I asked her about the weekly goal sheet, if she'd been updating that. She said, "What's that?" And I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? What's that? And so it's like, okay, I can't blame her. It's my fault. I'm the captain here. I should be training all of my staff, and my wife is in that list. I should be explaining to them what I expect so that they can follow the systems. And so the
Yeah.
buck falls down, buck stops with me. So that was a
Um,
long answer. I'm sorry.
no, that was good. There were so many nuggets in that, but I wrote down the last thing because that's one of the things when we're saying what matters most and going back to the fundamentals. That's something I think we always need to revisit as visionaries. It's in our head and we think that we cast the vision and told everyone, but we often skip a lot of the details. And what you said, you really need to explain what you expect. And we need to do that over and over. That
Mhm.
these are my expectations, but continuing to lay those out. Not this is the expectation when you're hired, or this is the expectation in the beginning of the year, and we never revisit those. That we're continuing to speak out those things that we expect, and then find a way that those are measured or regularly put in front of people? Are they meeting the expectations?
I
So
forgot that word measured. Last time we got together, you said measured. I was like, what?
it's
What did
serious.
you say?
I'm like, darn it,
You
ready
got to
to-
measure everything.
I have a unique way of saying that word, audience. And I
So
do think until someone pointed it out. Now it's a thing.
done. You need some measure tape. So another thing my coach says, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but I think he says, his official title at his company is CER, which is Chief Executive Reminder, and that really stuck out to me because it's true. It's your full-time job as the CEO of your company is to go around reminding people of what their job is, and I find that to be exhausting and just a miserable job. Like I can't think of a worse job than being the bad guy all day long saying, "Hey, don't forget to get your daily inventory done." It's like I don't want to have to be that guy. But until we hit a certain point in revenue, there's no other option. So, you kind of just figure that out and figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at and do it anyway. So,
There you go. I like that analogy. We have to take our first commercial break, but first a comment from JC himself. Just realized you two are matching.
why do you think I wore black, JC? Come on, man. Get back to work. Shouldn't you be working out or something?
I was like, we got that comment and not a comment on my major word. So we're going to take our first commercial break and we'll be right back.
Cress is North America's only lineup of battery-powered OPE that meets the needs of professional landscapers. Right now with Cress, if you have 5 crews, you can save up to $10,000 per year. Supported by the revolutionary 8-minute cyber system, Cress equipment provides the same power and performance as their gas-powered counterparts. And Cress-made 60-volt CyberPack batteries charge in 8 minutes or less. Professional landscapers can finally make the switch to battery without sacrificing performance, power, or runtime. For more information or to find a dealer near you, visit Cress.com. $10,000 savings based on 5 full-time landscaping crews of 3 users operating handheld power tools for 180 days per year.
And we're back.
Hey-o.
Okay, so I'm like, what were we even discussing before we talked about measure and our wardrobe and black for the day? But I love that. I wrote that down and I'm going to remember that and then probably put it here somewhere on the wall, the chief executive reminder. And you're right that in phases of our business, we've got to remind that the details that we don't want to, like we are the visionary and the integrator going around and reminding them of the details. And eventually that replaces and someone is reminding them of the job. But we are always in the position of reminding them, I think, of the vision,
Right.
keeping that in front of them, and like our overall expectations. Like this is our mission and vision and our core values. And these are the expectations of our company. And that's powerful because I think that's something we let slip.
Yeah, for sure. So I was thinking about when we went on the break, I was thinking about, how did I come up with my priorities for the, start of 2024?
Yeah.
The biggest like slap in the face was not hitting my numbers, and our net profit was nowhere near what I wanted it to be. And so after we got off the phone call with my CFO and we did our annual, forecasting and budgeting, I'm like, all right, something's got to give because our gross profit, we're all over it. Our net profit after the variable expenses, not good. So what did we do? I dissected everything, every expense we have over the last 3 weeks. I've dissected it. And I think I've cut, we just saved $10,000 on our auto insurance a year by just looking at it again. I called a friend who did my home insurance and I said, "Hey man, look at our commercial policy. Let me know what you can come up with." He saved us 10 grand a year. So that was just one aspect. So just by taking my finances seriously and, doing what needs to be done, I realized that, but it was too late. I should have done this on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. So I lost a year because we found crazy expenses that we just took our eyes off the ball,
Mm.
So that kind of forced my hand to focus on that.
And that is, not to keep reiterating the integrator, but that is, as you grow, the importance of having that. I think that is one of the main ways an integrator is described in Traction, is the defender of the P&L.
Mm-hmm.
That you as the visionary have the ideas, and somebody has to filter those through,
Right.
and especially those expenses of they are defending the P&L and watching out for those things all the time, or like, where can we be skinny and
Right.
tight, so that and that's when that combination works best of, and you just said it, that's so true of most visionary entrepreneurs. The gross is high because visionaries are sales, and we're focused on sales and marketing and
Right.
making that top number high. And you either have to be the person that's looking at those all the time, or surround yourself with someone that is looking at the other number,
Right.
defending all of those.
So I think, yeah, you nailed it. So one of the ways we did that, because if you're a small business owner in the beginning stages, the first really 5 years, if you survive 5 years, you're most likely stepping into that next level of business. Well, I'm not there yet. We just started this business back up 3 years ago. So we're still in infant stages, which means the P&Ls don't justify me hiring an integrator, right?
Mhm.
So it is what it is. I'm the integrator for a while. So that's just kind of, I think Damon John wrote the book Power of Broke, and it's the same concept. It's like, you take somebody with a lot of money in the bank and you give them a goal of starting the same business as a person that has no money in the bank. The person with no money in the bank is going to build a stronger, more long-lasting business, because it's on a better foundation of, being faithful to your P&Ls, because you have no choice, right? The guy with all the money, he's just going to burn money, and he's going to build the same business, but it's going to be in debt, right? So it's that whole concept. So right now, what I'm doing is I spent time building out spreadsheets. I mean, spreadsheets galore, trying to figure out ways that this meant, like, my admin can on a weekly basis plug in the reports on, phone conversations. How many phone calls did we make? How many phone calls came in? So we start tracking those KPIs, right? Just getting more intentional on how we track that without me having to do it. But I build out the system and then offload the responsibilities, right?
Yep.
So my CFO updates our stuff once a week. And then I look at it, because if we didn't do this, I would just never look at it, right? So you build out the systems to make your job as the don't want to be the integrator person easier, right? And
Yes.
that's kind of what I spent the last month doing, is just I've probably got 3 or 4 brand new spreadsheets that, I mean, it's like stupid how detailed these spreadsheets are, and the math that coordinate, and you make one mistake and the whole thing just goes black.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm pretty proud of it. I think that, and I feel free to show anybody that wants to see what we've been working on. I've got no problem with that. But I think most people are in the same boat as I am in the first 5 years. Like, you better find a way to do it, because if you don't, it'll be too late. You can't dig a hole. Most of us can't afford to pay our way out of a hole.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. And you can't just be like, this is going to be a better year, and
right.
keep selling your way out. I mean, you keep selling your way out, but you've got to pause and look at those things. You're not going to keep making it, like you said. For people that are listening, and those businesses that are newer, that are in the first 5 years, sometimes, I mean, I remember this in the beginning, and when I was working with, I mean, at the time, other dance studio owners, but same concept. I don't know when there is that gap, when we're like, oh, I way beat my goals on sale. We way beat that top number. But our bottom number, we did not. I am not making money. I am working my ass off and not making money. How do you know? And you have a CFO, but you started breaking down things like auto insurance and stuff like that. How do people know what numbers to look at? How did you determine where it
Yeah,
is
that's a great question.
those cuts and look at things?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't know. Justin Boyd, my CFO, is still trying to explain this to me. I sent him a text the other day. I can't tell you exactly what it said, but basically I was like, I have no idea what you just said. He's telling me all the things we need to do and change for 2024. And I'm like, I've been in business for over 20 years and I have no idea what you just said. But basically you need to look at, in my eyes, 3 numbers: your gross revenue. And as entrepreneurs, we always say the same thing. Oh, we just need to bring in more money. We just need to make more money. We'll fix that. Well, that's not true. That's just not true. Your percentages of, your marketing percentages is the same no matter what. You make more money, your marketing goes up. So you really need to dive into 3 numbers: your revenue, your gross profit, and your net profit. If you look at a company's P&Ls, the gross profit is kind of like, okay, they got a chance. This is what their cost of goods cost X amount, and this is what's left over. So cost of goods would be like the things you have to have, right, to run the business. For us, that would be bleach and that kind of stuff. And then everything else, a good business owner would look at the P&Ls and say, okay, everything below that list, we need to figure out how to simplify and save money. So, your monthly costs, like your subscriptions, and you think this stuff doesn't add up, but it does. I had 2 jobber accounts, one for Christmas lights and one for pressure washing. Seems like it's not that big of a deal, but at the end of the year, I was like, cut it out. I was like, get rid of everything and simplify. So you just create basically a spreadsheet of where your expenses are, and then you just start attacking them one at a time. And if you don't absolutely need it, like, I love Company Cam. Anybody using Company Cam, absolutely love it. I think we're too young in our business to justify the cost right now. So we cut that. We cut a number of different things. And if you put it in a spreadsheet, you can just, every time you cut it out, you see that net profit, potential forecast net profit go up, up, up each time. And so you realize that this is time well spent. You get that dialed in, and then you're set up for the year, and then you focus on doubling your revenue, and you're really going to have a good year. So that's what we're shooting for in 2024.
I like it. Have you at all done, because this is, and I laugh all the times when I tell this story, because now I'm like, how did I think my 24-year-old self knew how to run a business and numbers, let alone try and help other people do the same thing? But I didn't know either, right? I wasn't an accountant. But the things I looked at that in that case and had other people look at, I'm not sure if you do this, but percentages compared to other businesses
Oh yeah.
that were successful.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're working with a coach or you have a mentor or have somebody that's in the same industry that you are and is doing it well, those bottom line numbers are working out.
Yep.
What are their percentages, and how do yours compare to the industry? How does your marketing compare to the industry? How does your office expense compare to the industry? How, your profit per, ours in the dance studio was like square foot and different, and hours and different things. And in service industry, it's often per truck or per person, how much you're making money. And are all those things meeting averages? Are you paying too much for bleach?
Right.
In percentage compared to other things? Do you compare that to other people as well?
Yeah, it's tough in our industry because, let's just face it, there's not a whole lot of people that are crushing it in the pressure washing world. It's, in my eyes, it's not very many that have scaled it. And if they have scaled it, they're certainly not putting their P&Ls out for people to dissect and learn from, right? So It's really tough to be that specific with industry standards, but we do look at service-based businesses, because you have to understand that labor in a service-based business is extremely high. You can expect to be over 35% of your entire total cost. Actually total revenue, sorry. What else was I going? Yeah. So we track everything. Actually, you mentioned bleach, right? So one of the top 4 projects right now for us is we're spending a certain amount of money every week on bleach, and it's delivered to our shop, and it's working. It's not a broken system. So if I wasn't dissecting the numbers the way I am, I would just leave that alone and think nothing of it. But it ended up being a solid percentage of our revenue. And I said, how can I fix that? What can I do that would be above and beyond? I think it was like $20,000 last year in bleach. I was like, that's a big number. How can I fix that? So we're currently trying to wholesale it. I want to get it delivered and triple the amount that we have delivered to our shop. And the closest supplier of bleach for us is 35 minutes away. So all of my competitors would then buy for me, and I wouldn't have to do that. Right. So the thought, I haven't perfected it yet, but the thought is I can sell the bleach and then use it as well. And basically the bleach is free. So I just removed $20,000 from my expenses. And it's, it might not seem like a lot of money, but you do that with everything over time. That's not something you solve in the first year of business. That's something you just have to be intentional every year to break down your expenses and try and make it better and get your bottom net profit up. So that's what we're working on.
I love it. Yeah, those things that it doesn't necessarily cost money to make money, that aren't directly associated with, if I put more gas on this, if I spend more money on this, there's things like that are marketing and man hours and that are kind of hard expenses to be like, do I cut back on that? And it's going to affect the top number growing. And sometimes that's different things like admin help and stuff like that. That's hard to determine because now are we following up with our clients less or are they seeing us less? But the stuff that you're looking at is black and white. It's not affecting your level of service or the ability to attract new clients.
Right. And it would be very easy for me, and I'm prone to depression anyway. I'm sure we've had that conversation. It's very easy for me to get down on myself and just like, I don't even want to wake up today. It's like, I'm not getting out of bed. So it's very easy for me to fall into that trap. And I could have easily, after that report with my CFO, after that phone call, said, I don't know what I'm doing. This is insane. This is all a waste of time. I'm never going to make it. But what you need to do is, hike up your boots and figure out how to fix it. Right. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. If this problem didn't exist and I had tons of money in the bank and I wasn't worried about it, if I was not living like Damon John said, and the power of broke, if you weren't looking at it through that lens, then I would have just kept going and I would have said, don't worry about it. The bleach is not that big of a deal. The 2 jobber accounts is not that big of a deal. Company cam's not that big of a deal. Just make more money. Right. But you have to take it seriously. You have to be intentional with your expenses and your business and your P&Ls, even if it's not your strength, which is definitely not my strength. Definitely not my strength. But I have people in my life that are helping me get through it. And Justin, if you're watching, thank you, man.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we're going to dive back into that and the feelings and stuff around it after we take our second commercial break. We'll be right back.
TrueFuel is a high-octane fuel precision-engineered for your 2- and 4-cycle equipment. They use the most advanced synthetic lubricants and stabilizers in an ethanol-free fuel, improving performance, protecting your equipment, and saving you time. That means easier startups, smoother idling, and quicker trigger response, plus extended life for all of your equipment. TrueFuel is ready to use and easy to store, helping your operations be more efficient and reducing maintenance costs. We at Turfs Up use TrueFuel because we know it works and we know it's the best option. Check out TrueFuel50.com to learn more. That's TrueFuel50.com.
You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, the only radio station of its kind dedicated to the green industry. Now you can even ask Alexa to tune you in when you're home.
Are outdated spreadsheets and whiteboard scheduling costing you jobs? Or is a lack of consistency between crews causing your bids to differ from job to job? Or worse, delaying critical invoices and payments? Crew Control offers all-in-one business management solutions fit for every trade. From bidding and scheduling to invoicing and integrating payments, Crew Control provides real-time visibility into your crew's efficiency, whether you're in the field, in the office, or even on vacation. Manage your crews more effectively and improve business performance with Crew Control. Start your free trial today at crewcontrol.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world, here's to all the women in the green industry. Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
And we're back.
Hey.
So we dove into, like I said in the very beginning, Trevor, I do admire that about you, that even though it's not the thing that's fun and that brings you joy, you don't avoid diving into the processes and stuff. And I admire that about you because sometimes I do. I'm like, I know I need to look at it, but I just don't want to. And I think a lot of people are like that, way too many. And yeah, I'm the type that's like, can I just hire somebody to look at it and decide for it for me and fix those problems?
I think you lose enough times in life and that goes away pretty quickly. At least it did for me. You know, I was like, I think I failed 3 times in business and I was like, this is not going to happen again. You know, I will never put myself in that position. So that's all it really is. This isn't like some courageous stepping into out of my comfort zone type thing. This is fear. That's all it is.
But either way that you use fear, it's still something that we all need to do.
True.
So we went through some of the practical things that you're doing, and I hope that's a lesson to our audience because it certainly is for me of, those things that we need to go take a look back at, going back to the fundamentals, really thinking about what matters most, all those things in addition to crunching those numbers, just dialing those back, and then remembering who we are as the CEO and the CER and getting back into that with our people. But you just mentioned, now I'm going to make you talk about feelings.
Oh, here we go. Prepare yourselves. Fast.
But the feeling of it, you mentioned that you could have gone into a depression. And I think that this is something that we don't necessarily talk about enough. There are so many of us as business owners, and the vast majority, because we should have made goals that we didn't hit all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So even if it was a great year, there are numbers that are going to be hard to look at, or things that we said we would do, maybe in our family life, in our personal life, as we make commitments to ourselves and our business and our team as the year begins. And we have to look at those and look at ourselves in the mirror at the end of the year and realize the things that we didn't hit. That's not easy to do.
No, it's definitely not. Yeah. So it's a lifelong journey for me, learning how to avoid that. I don't think it'll ever go away. It's just something I will always struggle with. Self-image, everybody says I'm so confident, so cocky. It's not true. It's not true at all. It's me trying to, actually JC said that when he first met me. He was like, oh, look at this guy. It's not me. That's not how I think about myself. The way I think about myself is the reason the name of my podcast is Through the Noise. It's because the noise is me. I'm my worst enemy 90% of the time, so one of the things that I do that's practical to avoid that, or, when I feel myself sinking in, is I like to check things off my list. It's one of those things that I find a lot of fulfillment in. When I come home at the end of the day, my wife always knows when I had a good day, like I got stuff done, because I come home and I'm like, check it out. I'm like excited to show her the new section of the operations manual, and nobody else cares about that, but I do. It's something that I put on my to-do list, and when I knock it off, it's a big deal for me. So one of the things I do is I try to look back at the year and look at all of the big ticket things that I tackled and successfully implemented, and that it really helps trigger I don't know what it is. Maybe it's dopamine. It's like, okay, you did all right. You did those things. You did this. You did that. And then that puts you in the right mind frame to be grateful, right? And I think gratitude is the secret to life and everything we do. If you can find a way to remove yourself from the situation and look at it and be like, like for instance, the not hitting my numbers. I should look at that and say, I'm grateful I didn't hit my numbers, because now it's created this necessity to dive into my expenses and get more intentional. Right. But it probably took me a week to do that. It probably realistically took me a week of being mad and disappointed and upset with myself and feeling like I was, a fraud for a week. at least where I was just being horrible to myself. And I know my wife can pick up on it because she's the closest to me. But you have to sit down and say, okay, you did this, you did that, you did these things. And now you're given the opportunity to make it right. You should be thankful that you have that, right? This thing that happened to you is a good thing. So I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on
that's a good tool. I was gonna ask how you bounce back out of that when we look at that. You mentioned that you gain, like, it gives you positivity, that you like checking things off a list. I'm sure I've done this before. Have you taken the Gallup Strength Finder?
Nope.
No, I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
My top Gallups, because I know you like other ones, like
Yeah.
the DISC assessment, and my top Gallup strength is Maximizer. I bet it's in your top 5. It's taking good things to great, but mine also manifests in that's exactly me. I mean, I don't care how, like, there can be big wins or whatever, but success in the day to me means, like, how many things did I check off a list?
Yeah.
So
Visionary.
the more that I can, like, put that in.
Yeah.
Even if I've learned that about myself in this new year. I was kind of going through not feeling great about as I looked at the end of last year, and I'm like, okay, I have got to put, like, my 6 most important list and checking it off. Like, make sure I put 6 things that I can actually do.
Yeah. Yep.
And do those in the morning so that I'm like, oh, I won the day that way, at least.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I love about the top 4 projects. Sounds like it's very similar. You know, you should look at your top 4, top 6, whatever it is, every single day, and it should consume you. It's the thing that I work on early in the morning, you know, first thing when I'm fresh. And I try to check that off. And they're usually really big things, like, okay, budget 2024, number 1. That's not a small, you know, that's marketing calendar, that's dialing in your expenses, like, that's a big ticket. But as soon as I check that off, I mean, it's like this feeling of confidence and structure. It just, you know, I don't know, it's one of those things that you really need to check off things, and my personality type, to make yourself feel like you're winning.
Absolutely. I can't wait for you to take that test, because that's me too. And we've got to identify ways, you know, that's just another tool, like you said, to keep yourself from slipping into that, or what are things that gives you that dopamine every day, makes you feel successful, that is a win for you. And I have to have small wins every day to think, you know, to feel like I'm accomplished. And stuff like that. So,
but I do think it really is gratitude. I think gratitude is a secret to life. I say this a lot because no matter what your situation is, if you really dive deep and you think about the worst thing that could happen, just be grateful that didn't happen and get back to work. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that bad. So that's what I struggle with.
That's a good way to, as we wrap up the episode, to always remember. And I have in my journal that I write 3 things that I am grateful for every morning. Of, you know, here's 3 things. So you begin, and then at the end of the day too, that you begin and end in gratitude of, like, okay, all these other things went wrong, but I'm grateful for that. And you're right. If you center on that, as I looked at the end of the year, mine wasn't necessarily numbers, but when I do New Year goals, I focus on, like, all areas of my life, right? So there are goals in business, but also, like, relationships, family, with my kids, my personal growth, just things that I say I'm absolutely committed to. And I'm hard on myself and have a hard time because I think, like, I wasn't true to myself then, right?
Right.
My life obviously changed a ton this year, and so many ways for the better. I didn't know you a year ago. Most of the awesome people in my life, I didn't know a year ago. And I have a whole new life that I am so grateful for. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for being here with JC. But it was a weird look at my year-end goals, or looking at how I started out the beginning of the year, because so much focused around my relationship with my adult kids and the time I was going to spend with them and the things that we were going to do together, and just things that were in that life, right? Habits and stuff that I set up for that life. So I definitely had to step into that gratitude, remove myself from like, okay, that's what that version of myself committed to
Right.
for myself. And I need to be focused more on the gratitude of not that I didn't do most of what I said I was going to do, but grateful for the new doors and opportunities and people.
Yep. Love it.
And that's sometimes a hard shift. So, well, thank you, Trevor, for being on again and just talking through some stuff. Like I said, I knew it would just be, great conversation and so much that hopefully the audience can take from this on practical things. It's not too late to go back through and really start the year off on a great foot on, setting your mindset on these things and then the practical things that you need to do. So, any parting words for the audience? And then we do end each week with a call to action. I didn't warn you about this again, but we ask the audience, so you can give parting words and then tell us your uncomfortable thing. We ask the audience each week, what's one thing that you need to do this week to get uncomfortable? So,
am I supposed to answer that too?
You're supposed to answer that too. Any parting words and then answer that.
Okay, I'll give you parting words, right? Because I think a lot of what I said focuses on the past, because you're looking at all the things that you did right and wrong the previous year, and then you're focusing on fixing it. If you don't have, and most visionary entrepreneurs don't have this problem. I live in a fantasy world where we're already, doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue. I've got 82 employees, and that's just where my head is at 90% of the time. But if you don't have a clear vision that is a positive vision on top of these things, then it's just going to seem like an insurmountable mountain that isn't possible. So you really need to know where you want to be and why you're doing what you're doing in order to accomplish the things that you don't want to do, right? You got to justify that. With that said, something that I need to do to get uncomfortable, I gotta get back on the podcast. And I've been so lazy, and it's just, this is not something that's natural to me. It might seem like that, but I don't know. For some reason, Angela has a way of making me feel comfortable, and I have a lot of words all of a sudden. Normally I don't talk much, but I got to get the podcast back up and going, and I'm going to go ahead and announce my next guest because I'm calling his shot because he has to be there. Connor Graham from Florida, my boy, Simple Solutions. He will be here next week. Putting it down right now.
Oh, I love it.
Podcast. And it's going to be uncomfortable for both of us. We're both introverts, and we're going to get weird. So check it out.
I love it. You called out a big shot. A lot of times people say something that's sort of ambiguous and we can't measure it. We're going to be watching, and I'm excited for that podcast to go back up. Woo!
You know Connor, right?
I love it.
You met Connor in Vegas.
Yes, I met Connor in Vegas. So I'm excited to see the two of you back up there. My uncomfortable thing is I'm stepping out in a new speech. So I have some stages coming up, and I talk a lot about the same things of courage, the like outward courage and morning rituals, and a lot of the things that we always talk about. And even though I mix up the speech with different stories and a little bit of variation and fine tuning those, that's usually what I talk about on stages and working in your unique genius and stuff like that. And I've been thinking on my heart, and I'm going to switch it up. It's going to require a lot of work to like completely redo a signature talk for a keynote that's in 2 weeks. But I'm going to do it. And it's going to be a different kind of courage.
You're going to kill it.
Well, thank you. And thanks again for hanging out with me, Trevor. Guests, whether you're listening on Turf Step Radio, again, we love our Turf Step Radio audience. Those of you on Facebook, thanks for saying hello. We'll see you next week. Don't forget one thing that will make you uncomfortable this week.